If you have seen the truth table in Boolean algebra, this video is going to be familiar in your eyes because we are going to focus on logical operators, and that will be AND and OR. So for that, I've created a file. Again, you can create a file and label it with whatever name of your choice. So now, what are the two operators we are going to see in this video or this section? The first will be AND. Oh, we can say and okay, and next will be OR. So this will be OR. Okay, so these are the two operators we are going to see in logical operators, and this is the symbols we will be using to denote AND, and also we use these two above symbols to also denote OR. Now, why do we need to use these operators? Let us take, for example, we have two. By the way, these operators are going to check a conditions, or maybe it's going to compare, and then return a value based on the truth within that value. So let us say we have truth and true. In this case, if we are using AND, what this is saying is that in a sentence or in a condition, the operations in the left and the operation in the right has to be true before this return a true. Hope this is clear. If you have expressions that have here false and you are checking against true, this should return a false, because if one is true and one is false, it should return false. If both are false, it should return false. Both has to be true. So let us just see then below. So if we have like TWE, true, and false, so here we can say true, and here we will say false. Okay, and also here if we have like false and true, we should have false. And also here if we have false and false, we should have false. So these are the operations that we are going to carry on, or we are going to check always when we are using the AND operator in a programming or in JavaScript. So these are the operators relative to AND. Let us see OR. We can like remove this from here and come below and say OR. Okay. So now for OR, what this is saying is that if one of the conditions, be it the left or the right, is true, it should return true. So let's take this in a common example. We are trying to output a sentence, and then you make a condition that says maybe basketball or football. That means anyone can be used. Maybe basketball or football should be used in the game. In that examples, we can use either basketball or football. But if you say basketball and football, that means we are using two boys. It's compulsory that we use both basketball and football. If you have only basketball, it's not valid. So all operators, true, if we have true, so we can just have these instead of hard coding this. Let's have yeah, okay, and we will just change the value. So remember, if we have one being true, it should return a true. So yeah, we have true and true, so this is true. We have true and false, this should be true. we have false and true. This should be true. And here we have false and false. This should be false because the condition says one have to be true. Even if both are true, the fact that one is true, it should return true. Otherwise, false. So now we have seen the high level understanding of the logical operators. Let us see a few examples using code. So now we can go with console.log. And our first example will be, let us say 2 is greater than 3. And 5 is lesser than 9. Okay, so if you see here, we are using these symbols, two n symbols, and we cannot use n in this case. To represent a and d, we are going with these are two symbols. So remember that. Now, let us look at this before printing the answer in the console or our terminal. Let us see what is happening here. And now we have 2. We are checking. Is 2 greater than a 3? No. 2 is lesser than 3. So this, we don't even need to check this. We don't need to check the right-hand operations. This is going to return a false. So let us save and open our terminal. Okay, yep. So NODE, nodemon, logical. Now we have false. This is returning false because this is false. So there is no need to even check the operations on the right hand. Let's have another example to see. Yeah. So in this case, we want to have 9. So we are going to check. Is 9 greater than a 3? Yes. Then we will move on to the next operation. In is 5 lesser than 9? Yes. So we have 2. This is going to return 2, and this also going to return 2. Remember, we just got 2 with comparison operators. Comparison operator compare 2 values or 2 maybe numbers, and then return the results as a Boolean. So this is what happening here. We compare 9 is lesser than a 3, and this is 2. This return 2, and we also check is 5 lesser than 9. This also return 2. So since both of them are true, we should also see 2 in our console. We can comment this first example and just save this. Now we have 2 in the terminal. So we can go on and on with using this logic we have explained above. So let us move on to OR. Now we have seen N. Let's move on to logical OR. For that, we can say console.log. And here we will say, 3. We can go with 8 is greater than 8. And also, remember we use the two pep symbols to denote OR. And also here we will have 2 is greater than, or 2 is lesser than, or equals to 5. Yeah. So let us also go over this. Now we are checking the condition. If 8 is greater than 8, no, this is false. Because 8 is equals to 8. It's not greater than 8. This is false. But if you can remember in this, our first example above in talking about N, logical N, this condition was false, and we never had the time to even check this next condition. But it's not this case, because if you can remember in the logical OR, we talked that if one of the condition is true, it's going to return true. So regardless of this being false or true, we are still going to check this a second condition. So now this is false. It is not greater than 8. It is equals to. We will move on to the next condition. Is 2 lesser than or equals to 5? Yes. So since this condition is true, this should return 2. So let us save this. Now we can see 2 below in our console. So the same goes here. Let's copy this and just have, yeah, we can comment the first one. Yep. So let us have, yeah, we can have like 81. So 81, yeah, 81 is maybe greater than 8. Is 81 greater than 8? Yes, this is true. So since this is true, we don't even need to check this because the condition is only to check for 1. If this is true, we move on, we print true. So we save, we also see true in our console. So that was it for logical operators. And I hope you learned something valuable from this tutorial. And with this, I will see you in the next one.